know what type of impact that would have on tourism here in the UAE. And I'm delighted to say, to discuss that topic, I'm joined now by Rikin Sheth. He is, of course, the Assistant Vice President of the travel agents Musafir.com. Rikin, thanks so much for joining me on the agenda this morning. What do you think, first of all, about the suggestion of this single GCC visa? Has it been floated in the past? Has it been floated recently?
Hi, Georgia. Good morning. A very happy World Tourism Day to everyone listening. It's really great. In fact, the first reference of this GCC visa was discussed during the Arabian travel market as well at the ATA. And there was some conversations around the GCC visa in terms of like a Schengen visa that allows you to move freely in European countries. I think it's a great initiative if that comes in through. We are also waiting for it to start. And yes, I think it's going to be great in terms of the expat movement, especially in the 6 GCC countries, which was easily accessible to the locals only. So yeah, it's great if it comes up. Like His Highness Mr. Murray said, I think we're looking forward to that so that it can really boost the tourism, especially with Saudi Arabia growing great guns in the tourism space.
Yeah, I have to say, no one was talking about a GCC-wide visa until Saudi Arabia stomped onto the tourism world stage. And I say stomped because once that market is mature, it really is going to be massive, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, Saudi Arabia is a country which is rich in history, culture, and natural beauty as well. For the last few years, we'd only heard about the Riyadhs, the Dammams, the Jeddahs when it came to business relationships. However, I think with more and more cities coming up, for example, Aba, it is brilliant in terms of the climate, even in this weather. Al-Ula, which is pretty much compared to Petra when it comes to the ancient rock formations, and other cities like Taif, which is very, very famous for its cool climate. So it's definitely great news. And with Saudi tourism doing so much to promote tourism in this part of the world, I think it's really great that what Saudi Arabia is currently doing to attract more and more tourists.
Do you think that Saudi is going to steal our thunder? I'm being very blunt there, but if you've got such a massive market, and they're definitely looking to the UAE for inspiration on the way they develop their tourism offering over in the kingdom, is there a risk that they steal all our tourists?
Well, I wouldn't call it a risk, but yes, there is competition. UAE realized that they had to diversify their economies and reduce the dependence on oil, and tourism was a key part of the UAE plan. I think Saudi Arabia is following the same footsteps so that they reduce their dependency on oil. Whether they encroach on each other's tourism market, I think it completely depends on their marketing strategies, their investments in the infrastructure. I think the visa reforms is a big critical part of the tourism growth. So I think as a tourist, I think it's good competition because that will help drive innovation and improvements in the services and the infrastructure, ultimately benefiting tourists. And why not? Someone want to come for a tourist package, they might probably look at traveling to Saudi and UAE both. So it's good sign.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine people wanting to go to Saudi for a more sort of cultural experience, or maybe to go and see Alula, and then maybe coming on to Dubai and Abu Dhabi to party, frankly. Because do you think that's a sort of, you might go with a dual country package scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. And vice versa. Like people might just come into Ras Al Khaimah and Fujairah to have the party, and then maybe to go to Alula and Aba for, just spending their time in the cooler climate, especially during the warm summer months in the UAE. And to get that kind of a weather in Saudi Arabia, it's a blessing in disguise.
Okay, so how about the other countries in the GCC? We've had our big focus there on the UAE, our big focus on Saudi. You mentioned Petra in Jordan, but realistically, I've heard that the tourism sector in Qatar really isn't, making waves, despite, I've heard from people who've recently been there who've said there really isn't a great deal going on there post-World Cup. Am I being unkind?
I would want to agree to that, but then I'm sure looking at the way Saudi is developing its tourism, I think Qatar will learn from this. I'm sure they are making amends into their economy as well. But yeah, even I was slightly disappointed after the massive success in terms of FIFA. Qatar has not been up to the mark. But I'm sure with easy visa reforms, because what they did is they extended the Haya card to a 1-year multi-entry visa for the people who had Haya card. So they are looking at options wherein, they will have to make certain provisions which will attract tourists. And yes, I agree to what you just said.
Oh, so not a great deal going on in Qatar at the moment. How about Bahrain? How about Kuwait? Are they ever going to be sort of tourist destinations, or I just missed the boat on what's going on in those countries?
Bahrain for sure. I think, in fact, there are a lot of people who travel from Saudi Arabia to Bahrain, considering that it is considered to be a party place, especially in terms of tourists. But I'm sure with the GCC visa coming up, I think entry into Bahrain will be easier for the expats, because you try and understand UAE is about 90% of expat population, right? Which means that only 10% of the UAE nationals have access to the GCC countries, which means that there will be more influx of tourists into, let's say, Kuwait and Bahrain. And I see that developing very quickly, especially once the GCC visa is out.
Rikin, thank you so much for your time. Really interesting to get those insights on the various different countries that would be potentially included in that GCC-wide tourism visa. We'll just have to keep our eye on that story to see when it actually becomes available. Rikin Sheth there, Assistant Vice President of the travel agency Musafir.com.